Right. So first, let's see what we are going to see in this OOPS ABAP. Okay. So to get into this object-oriented, the prerequisite for getting into object is basic ABAP. Okay. So it is assumed that already we know basic ABAP. Okay. And based on that, we'll be discussing what OOPS ABAP. So when I say basic ABAP, okay, you are expected to know how to work with what general things like what internal tables. Online, please mute your speakers. Please mute your speakers. If you have any questions only, please unmute and ask. Okay, right. So we should know internal tables. We should know how to work with what work areas. Okay, and we should know how to work with the database tables. I mean to say what select statement. Okay, and we should know how to work with subroutines, how to pass parameters to subroutines. Okay, function modules. Okay, and function models, and we require what basics of what module pool. For ALV reporting we require what module pool. Okay, so these are the things which we are expected to know before getting into what object oriented. Okay, again we are not going to discuss what is internal table, what is select statement, all those things. Okay, we'll focus only on what object oriented, right? Okay, so as part of our syllabus is concerned, we have divided object oriented something like this here. Don't take anything, everything will send it through email. Okay, so just concentrate on the topic. So here, the prerequisites already I told, we require what internal tables, database tables, subroutines, function models, how to write what select queries, and we require what some part of what module pool programming. So according to this OOPS ABAP syllabus, we have basic OOPS concepts, then we have advanced OOPS concept, then we'll be discussing what ALV reporting. So in the basic object oriented, we are going to cover all these things: classes, methods, attributes, constructors, inheritance, polymorphism, abstract classes, interfaces, and these are the concepts related to what advanced object oriented: persistent service, transaction service, RTTS, casting, event handling, and what design patterns. Again, ALV reporting, we will be having three flavors: using classes, using function models, and using ALV object model. Nothing but we call them as what factory classes. Understood? Okay, so we are going to cover this thing. More focus will be on what ALV reporting using classes and ALV object model. Function models, everyone knows about this. Okay, so we'll discuss very few things in this, but main focus will be on what classes and what ALV object model. And why we have to learn object oriented is, one second please, let me guide the online participants. Jay Kumar, one second. Right. So why we have to learn object oriented is we should not keep only ALV reporting in mind. Okay, the reason why we have to get into object oriented is this object oriented concepts we will be using in what different areas. Okay, ALV reporting, ALV object model, WebDim Pro, in UI5. Okay, UI5 backend, that is OData service development, and even in what Fairy application development, SRM technical, CRM technical, workflow, HR ABAP, baddies, BAPIs, enhancement framework, switch framework, and even in what some parts of what ANA. Okay, understood. So yeah, and not exactly ABAP syntax, but object-oriented concepts. There also we have classes, methods, inheritance, follow all the things. Yes, everything. Everything is object-oriented. Okay, what are the new modules which are going to be developed by SAP? Everything will based on what object-oriented. So without object-oriented, ABAP consultant cannot survive for long term. There are many people who are having 10 years experience. Yes, still they might be surviving, but going forward, it becomes what difficult. So there is a difference between knowledge and strong. Okay, so in the resume also, we should say that strong exposure to object oriented. Don't say knowledge. Everyone will have knowledge. Everyone will know what is class, what is method, all those things. So if you want to be different from others, the first bullet point in the resume should be strong exposure to object oriented programming. Then only we'll get more interview calls, okay, so that they can recruit you and they can place you in what other technologies, UI5 or even ABAP ANA or SRM technical, CRM technical, whatever it is. Okay, so this is what we are going to discuss as part of our syllabus. Any questions on this, please ask me. First, let me take classroom questions. Online, just hold on, I'll take classroom questions first. Yeah, any questions on this, please ask me. Feel free to ask. Okay, don't hesitate. Huh? Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, hello, hi, this is Shravan.
Shravan, just hold on. I'm speaking to classroom participants. I'll come back to online. Just hold on, please. Mhm. Using function models. There are many features which cannot be implemented using what function models. Okay, and if you go for classes, you'll have more support for events. In case of classes, I might be having some 100 to 200 events. Function models, I may have only 10 15 events, so everything is not achievable using what function models. Okay, so when the requirement is given to us, the developer has to decide whether he has to go for classes or function models. But still there are many developers who are still using what function models. But I can say we should never use function models. We should always go for what ALV reporting using classes only, or ALV object model, because performance wise methods are faster than what function models. So how it is faster, I'll explain that now. Is it clear? You should say you have knowledge on this, but you should say that you have worked on what ALV reporting using classes, or what ALV object model. ALV object model also uses what classes only. Okay. Yeah. Any other doubts? Classroom. Hmm? Yeah. Online. Any questions? Please ask me. Shravan, you are saying something.
Mm. Yeah. Actually, when I worked in the support project, the most of the people previously who developed the programs, they used like a function modules and as well as the factor classes also.
Correct.
So what I'm expecting is that I need like a in-depth exposure on the air-related function modules and the factor classes.
Hmm. Okay. See, one important point I want to say. Uh, Here, as part of our, please mute your speakers, Shravan. Yeah. So, as part of our course, we'll be covering all these things. Okay. There is nothing like a depth, in depth. Understood? No? I hate this word in depth, because even if we discuss for 1 year, also it is not sufficient. Okay. So, whatever we are going to discuss in the classroom, with that knowledge, you can project 5 to 6 years of strong exposure on object oriented itself. Understood? So I'll give you confidence that you can put 5 to 6 years experience on object oriented only, not on complete experience. Okay, so don't worry about the knowledge wise, Shravan. We'll be discussing each and everything, so that in future, if you come across any requirement, by using this knowledge, you can implement that. So don't worry about that aspect. Okay, we'll be covering all the things. Right? Any other doubts online? Okay, done. And as part of the course, we'll be sending what daily emails. Okay, when I say daily emails, it includes what these notes, detailed notes. Okay, programs, diagrams, everything. Okay, both for classroom participants as well as what online participants. So we'll send it on a daily basis. This would be sufficient to practice anything. Okay, suppose for example, let me open this. Yeah, suppose this is notes related to what basic oops. Okay, so when I open this, you'll have detailed notes on this, concept wise. Right, so everything will be available here. You need not refer to any other materials. Everything will be there in detail. Understood? So what are the programs we discuss in the live sessions, that also I'll send it as a separate files. Okay, so during the session you need not copy anything. Right, and one more thing is, we'll also be sharing the recordings for what preview access. Okay, this will be available during the course. during the course, and this will share it weekly 2 to 3 times. Weekly 2 to 3 times, in the sense, instead of committing day wise, I might be sending day wise also, but sometimes if I am busy and I may not send it on the same day, I'll send it on what, next day. Okay, so by Saturday you'll get the recordings of the entire week. I'll make sure that I'll try to send on a daily basis, but in case if I'm unable to send on the same day, I'll send it what, next day. Okay, so these recordings will be available during the course. Means if the course goes for 45 days or 2 months, for these 2 months you'll have the access to these recordings. Okay, I'll be sharing this in Google Drive. Okay, done. Any questions online? Okay, right. So let us understand why we have to go for what, object oriented. So what is the reason for learning object oriented? What are the new modules introduced by SAP? Everything is based on what, object oriented. If you take UI5, if you take ANA, SRM, CRM, whatever it is, everything is based on object oriented. Okay, so we should keep these things in mind, and we have to get into what, object oriented. Now the question arises, when I'm able to do everything by using subroutines and function models, why we should go for what, object oriented? Okay, so as I told you, this object oriented has got more support for what, events. More support for events. Okay, for simple example I'll give you. Suppose, assume that, so try to understand, I developed a report in ABAP which will display me some data. Try to understand, it will display me some data. So assume that this is my what, data, like customer number. Okay, and customer what, country, and something what, customer what, name. Understood? So this is my report which I displayed. So my requirement is, this column, this column should be made editable. Editable in the sense, the user should able to modify this data in the runtime. Suppose, assume that here the customer name is ABCPQRXYZ, something like this. Okay, so my customer requirement is, this column should be editable. Okay, means in the runtime the user should able to modify this data. Okay, he will update it to something else. You'll update it to something else. After editing, if you press enters, if you press enter, this should get updated in what, our database. Okay, so how do we achieve this in our classical reporting? Is it clear? My question is, a report is there which will display me some data, some data. One of the column I should make what, editable. Editable. The other column should be read only. Okay, what are the changes I have done? Again, one more thing here, the user might modify one cell, or user might modify what, multiple cells. Again, it depends on the requirement. Customer may ask for only single cell editing, or what, multiple cell editing. So assume that the user has modified multiple what, cells here. So after modifying, he will press some enter key, so that this record should get updated in what, database. Can we achieve this in our traditional ABAP? Hmm? Right, how you can how do you display the data in our
Yeah,
tradition? Yeah, online.
yeah, it is possible by using reused LV grid display. Under subroutine, we can write the logic. When we can add the application toolbar on save button. Hello.
Yeah, yeah, I'm listening, tell me.
We can add the application toolbar on save button. After under subroutine, you can write the logic. Whenever save button click, we can read statement, read internal table into work area with selfie tab index. After that, we can write size of as initial. After that, we can write the select statement based on you can possible. Yeah.
Okay, so
I worked on it.
okay, so what you
Yeah.
are, what you are saying is, you will, on the application toolbar you want to take a button kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So okay,
Yes.
one second please. So you are saying something like this, you want to take a button like something what, modified. Okay, so you are saying that this is an ALV report developed using what, function model, right? Okay, so once the report is displayed, how do you make this column as editable?
work area underscore edit equal to X.
Okay, you will make it as edit equal to X. Fine. After that, no, my requirement is I will do the changes. I don't want to click on this button. I don't want any button. Okay, after doing the changes, I may shift the focus to other cell, or I may press what? Enter key. So at that time only it should get updated. Is it clear? What you said is absolutely fine. What you are saying is, see, what you have suggested is, you want to make this column editable. Okay. After that, after doing the changes, if the user clicks on some button by referring to this internal table psi index, he will do it. But I don't want any button. The moment I make the changes, I'll shift my focus to what other cell. The moment I shift the focus to other cell only, this should get updated in what? Database. Or the moment I shift the focus to other cell, I should get a pop-up. Do you want to modify the cell? I'll say yes or no. So based on that, it should get updated in what? Database. So these things are possible only by using what? This ALV reporting using classes events. Am I clear? Not only this I give just a simple example. I want to display the report in the tree format, ALV tree control, or I want to display the report in the form of splitter, in the sense, I want something like this. Yeah, see here, this is a splitter only, na? Right? This is splitter. So left hand side I am having a tree control. Okay, right hand side, when there's a picture displayed here, when I double click on this or when I right click on this, some action has to be performed. So all these things are achievable using what? Classes only. Okay, that's the reason everything cannot be achieved by using what? ALV reporting using what? Function models. I'm not saying that we will not use it, we might be using, but instead of using function models, better to use what? Classes, because inside the classes we'll be using what? Methods. Okay, performance wise, methods are faster than what? Function models. Why? Can anyone tell me? If you compare, yeah. Yes, function models are global, so how does it matter? My question is, performance wise, why methods are faster than what? Function models? Anyone? Classroom or online? Sorry? Reference. What reference? Function models I can call. Yeah, yeah, good point, Surendra. See here, where the function models are stored. Function models are stored inside what? Function group. So somewhere in my requirement, I'll say what? Online, please mute your speakers, boss. Since this is the first day I'm guiding you, but tomorrow onwards, na, please mute your speakers. If you have any questions, you unmute and ask. Okay, I'm getting disturbance. Okay, right. So here, I'll say call function. I'll give some function model name like what? The known function model, reuse underscore ALV underscore grid underscore display. So we know that function models are stored inside what? Function group. So let me go to this function model once again. What is the T code? Function builder SE37. So I'll go to SE37. Let me reuse underscore ALV underscore grid underscore display is my function module. Right. So this function module, it is stored in what function group? SLVC underscore what? Full screen, it seems. SLVC underscore full screen. So let me copy that function group. I'll go to object navigator SE80. Okay. Let me open that. Yeah, I'll choose what? Function group. Right. This is the function group. SLVC underscore what? Full screen is the function group. If I go to function model section, inside this function group, we have many function models now. We have many function models. Okay. And already we know in our basic ABAP, a function group will contain what? Top include program. Na? Right. If you scroll down, somewhere in the include section, you will have an include ending with a top. Na? Yes or no? What is the purpose of this top include program? In this, I can declare global variables. These variables, whatever you declared in the top include program, can be used by all the function models of this function group. Na? So what I mean to say is, whenever we call any function module, the rest of the function modules in that function group also gets loaded into what? Memory. I may not be using it, but without our knowledge, the other function modules of that particular function group gets loaded into the memory along with the variables. Along with the variables means what? What are the variables you declared inside what? Top include program. This top include program might contain a variable declarations, types declaration, work areas, internal tables. All those declarations also gets loaded into what? Memory. So what gets loaded here? Yes, function models plus what? The data declarations gets loaded. Am I clear? But when I call the method, what happens? Only that method will be loaded into what? Memory. So performance wise, this is the main reason why methods are faster than what? Function models. Am I clear? So going forward, if we don't have any corresponding method, yes, there is no other solution. We have to go for what? Function models. But if you have both the things, the better choice is what? Go for what? Methods. So why function models are slower than methods? Because whenever we call any function model, okay, the other function models of that function group gets loaded into what? Memory, which requires what? More memory resources. When it consumes more memory resources, obviously performance will be what? Degraded. That's the reason it is better to call what? Method only. Am I clear? Okay, so everything whatever you are able to achieve using function models, we can achieve by using what? Methods. If you don't have corresponding methods, yes, you must go for what? Function models only. Done? Any questions online? First let me take online questions. So in the interview point of view, why methods are faster than what? Function models, or in other ways I'll say, the interviewer, most of the interview will ask this question. When I'm having this function model reuse ALV grid display, why are you using the method set table for what? First display. Am I clear? So when you go to ALV reporting, okay, I can develop the ALV report by either using this function model, or I can develop the same report by using a method what? Set table for first display. So if the interviewer asks this question, you have to tell this answer. Okay, the reason why we went for classes is, okay, because if you check, evaluate the performance of methods are very much faster than what? Function model. The reason is the other function models of that function group gets loaded into what? Memory, which requires what? More memory resources, which obviously degrades what? Performance. Am I clear? Suppose in my program, if I call 10 function models, what happens? Those 10 function models might be part of 10 different function groups. Na? The function models of all those 10 function groups gets loaded into what? Memory. You see, if you call only one function model, if you call only one method, you may not have much performance issue. But when you take a real-time scenario, we might be calling what? Many function models, na? And each function models may belong to a different function group. So when there are too many function models, then it will degrade what? Performance. So how do you improve the performance? By going for what? Methods. Am I clear? Any questions on this classroom? Right? Online? Okay. Right. So if you take any object oriented language, okay, we have many object oriented languages. We have Java, we have .NET, we have ABAP. ABAP also is considered as what? Object oriented language. So when we can call a programming language as object oriented, we have some features of object oriented like encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism. Any programming language supporting those features, that language can be called as what? Object oriented. So since Java, .NET, ABAP supports all these OOPS features, what are those OOPS features? We'll be discussing practically. Okay, when I say OOPS features, we have what? Encapsulation. Okay, we have something called as what? Data abstraction. We have inheritance and what? Polymorphism. So any programming language supporting those four features, we can call that language as what? Object oriented. Since ABAP also supports what? These features, we call ABAP also as what? Object oriented programming language. So what is encapsulation, abstraction? We'll discuss that going forward. Done. So in every object oriented language, how do we write the, what is the programming style? We'll create something called as what? Classes. Okay. So let us understand what is a class first. In our ABAP, we have something called as, okay, in our ABAP, how do you declare the internal tables? I can declare the internal tables in many ways. What is the recommended way? First, we'll create what? Yes, types declaration with what? Yes, required fields. What are the fields you want? Those fields first you'll declare inside what? Types declaration. Then after declaring types declaration, what you'll do? You'll declare what? Internal table based on what? Types declaration. Yes or no? This is the recommended way for declaring what? Internal tables. Okay. So how do you create the types declaration? You'll use what keyword? Types begin of what? Suppose ty underscore employee. Try to understand this. Employee number, I'll say type I. Okay. Employee name of 20, type C, and then I'll say what? End of what? Ty underscore what? Emp. Okay. So this is how you create the types declaration. Can anyone tell me how much memory is allocated for this? No memory. Types declaration will never allocate what? Memory. Types declaration will only provide the template. Template in the sense, what are the field names, what are the data type of the fields, what is the sequence of the fields. It only provides what? Template. So once a template is available, once a types declaration is available, you can create what? Internal table and what? Work area. So what I can say, I'll say data something, I tab 1 type table of what? ty underscore what? Emp. Like this I can create any number of what? Instances based on that particular types declaration. Yes or no? Okay. So this is my internal tables and this is my work area kind of things. Understood? So once types declaration is available, I can create any number of internals and work areas. So why we are discussing this is, you can compare class is similar to what? Types. Okay. So class is what? A class is a collection of components. A class is a collection of what? Components. Okay. So what do you mean by components? Whatever we declare inside a class, we call them as what? Components. So if you take Java environment, in Java, a class can contain what? Instance variables and what? Methods. Okay. If you take C++, this is only to brush up our knowledge. A class is a collection of what? Data members and what? Member functions. Am I clear? Similarly, if you take ABAP, a class can contain what? Attributes. A class can contain what? Methods. A class can contain events. A class can include an interface. A class can include an alias. A class can include what? Something called as what? Macros. Understood? So what I mean to say is, how do you create a, what is the purpose of types keyword? It is used for creating what? User defined data type. Na? Can I call this as a user defined data type? Yes, this is nothing but what? User defined data type. Similarly, a class is also what? A user defined data type, which is a collection of what? Components. Okay. In case of Java environment, those components will be in the form of what? Instance variables and what? Methods. In case of ABAP environment, a class can contain what? Attributes, methods, events, interfaces, aliases, and what? Macros. All this together we call it as what? Components. Am I clear? So to understand that in a better way, see here. Observe here. If you take our C++, if you know C++, you will understand, otherwise just ignore it. This is the way you create the class. How do you create a class in C++? You'll say class followed by what? Class name. Okay, you'll open the class and you'll close the class. Within the class, whatever we declare, we call them as what? Data members and what? Member functions. The same thing in Java, we call them as what? Instance variables and what? Methods. The same thing in ABAP, we call it as what? A class, a ABAP class can contain what components? Attributes, methods, events, interfaces, aliases, and what? Macros. Am I clear? So this is very important. Try to understand. A Java class can contain only two types of what? Components. A C++ class can contain only two types of components. A ABAP class can contain what? All these components. So it is not compulsory that every class should contain all these components. It might contain all components, or it might contain only attributes. It might contain attributes plus methods. Depending on the requirement, we will create what? class. So whenever we create a class, memory will not be allocated. Just like whenever we create the types declaration, memory will not be allocated. Na? Similarly, whenever we create the class doesn't allocate any memory. A class will only provide what? Template of what? Components. When I say template of components, what attributes, what methods, events, all those things. So to understand further, see here. Yeah, see here. So as I told you earlier, a ABAP class can contain what components? Attributes, methods, events, interfaces, aliases, and what? Macros. So again, in the next 1 week, we'll be discussing all these things. How to work with attributes, how to use methods, events, all those things. Okay. So the developer should able to decide whether he has to go for instance attribute or whether he has to go for what? Static attribute. No one will tell us to go for instance or static. The developer has to decide depending on the requirement. So going forward, we'll understand the differences between all these things. Am I clear? So in the next 1 week, we are going to discuss what? This basic OOPs. So when I say basic OOPs, we'll be discussing what? Classes, methods, attributes, all those things. So initially we'll be discussing what? Attributes part. Clear? Any questions so far? Online, any questions? So what exactly this thing we don't know at this stage. Okay, we'll understand this only after what? 1 week to 10 days. Yeah, classroom, any questions? Feel free to ask, don't hesitate. Okay, we are attending this course not to get knowledge. We are attending this course to become strong in what? Object oriented. There is a difference between knowledge and what? Strong. Okay, so any questions? Right? So what I'll do now is I don't want to waste time in discussing the theoretical part. Let us jump into what? Programming part. Okay, so what we will do today is we'll try to understand the difference between what? Instance attribute, static attribute, and also what? Constant. Going forward, we'll see what? Types attribute also. Okay, right. So what is my requirement is try to understand. I want to create a class. Okay, I want to create a class which contains some attributes, only attributes. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, I've not yet started. Okay, so I want to create a class which contains only what? Attributes. So I want to take 3 types of attributes. Okay, for the prior information, what is an attribute means you assume attribute is like a variable. Why do we declare variables? To store the data. So anything, any variable you declared inside a class, don't call them as variable, call them as what? Attributes. Understood? The purpose is what? Same. Okay, so attributes are nothing but what? Variables, but they are declared within the class. If you declare anything outside the class, we call it as what? A normal variable. Okay, suppose something like this. How do you declare integer? You'll say data, employee number, type what? I. So if I leave it like this we call it as what? Integer variable. If I declare the same thing within a class, I don't call that as a variable, I call that as an instance attribute. So what is instance, what is static, we'll understand it very shortly. So what is my requirement now? I want to create a class. Inside that, let me take the class name as what? Something ABC. Okay. Inside my class, I want to take what? One instance attribute, one what? Static attribute, and what? One constant attribute. So this is very important. First of all, the developer should know what components you have to declare inside the class. No one will tell us you declare attribute, you declare method, you declare instance static. The developer has to take the call. Okay. So since my requirement is I want to understand the difference between what? Instance attribute, static attribute, and constant attribute. I'll create a class ABC with how many components? 3 components. Whatever I declare inside a class, I call them as what? Components. So those components are what? Instance, static, and what? Constant. Right. And before creating the class, we should decide whether we have to create local class or whether we have to create what? Global class. Am I clear? Just like again, if you take our basic ABAP, we have internal subroutine and what? External subroutine. Right. So when do we go for internal subroutine? If you want to call that subroutine within the same report, we'll go for what? Internal. If you want the same subroutine to be accessible outside that report, we'll go for what? External subroutine. Similarly here also, as the name itself suggests, local class means what? It is local to what? A report. Local to a report. So where do we create it? In ABAP editor. Okay. Global class means what? You can assume this global class similar to what? External subroutines. Okay. So what? Global to what? Global to all objects. Global to, when I say objects, it can be a executable program, it can be a include program, it can be a subroutine pool, it can be a module pool, whatever it is. Okay, global to what? All objects. Where do we create it? Yes, class builder, that is SE24. Understood? So in the project also, we should decide whether you have to go for local class or what? Global class. So initially, the general tendency is we'll keep only our requirement in mind. Try to understand. Assume that we are all what? ABAP consultants working in a project. A requirement is given to me. So what I'll do, I'll think of only my requirement only. Na? So keeping my requirement in mind, I'll go for what? Local class. Understood? So I'll create a class within the report. It is working fine. Now in the project, after some days, same class is required in what? Other report also. Do we recreate the same class? Doesn't make sense. Am I clear? So I try to understand. A ABAP consultant is there. He has developed one local class inside a report. Inside a report. Okay. So after some time, the same class has to be used in what? Other place in my project. So assume that I am another ABAP consultant. Try to understand. I am another ABAP consultant. Okay, or assume that I am the same ABAP consultant, different ABAP consultant. I want the same class. Will you create the class once again? I can create, but doesn't make what? Sense. Project means what? Reusable now. So what I have to do? I need to check whether the same class is already defined by someone else. Yes, they have defined, but they define it as what? Local class. But can I use this in the other report? No. So what I have to do? I need to convert. I need to convert what? Local class to what? Global class. So SAP has given us very simple navigation to convert a local class to what? Global class. Am I clear? So what I mean to say is initially you might not be sure whether to create what? Local class or what? Global class. So you might be creating what? Local class only. Okay. After some days you might have realized that same class has to be used in what? Some other place in the project. So we have a provision to convert what? Local class to what? Global class. So initially we'll focus only on what? Local class. After 1 or 2 days, we'll go for what? Global class also. Okay. So my requirement is what now? I want to create a local class with how many attributes? 3 attributes. Okay. So when you talk about local class, how do you create a local class means? Okay. How do you work with subroutines? There are two things. One is defining the subroutine, another is what? Calling the subroutine. How to define a subroutine? Form, end form. How to call a subroutine? Perform. Yes or no? Okay, right. Function models, function, end function. That is in the function builder, you will define it. How do you call it? Call function. Similarly, whenever you want to work with the local class, there are two things here. One is, first step is what? Definition of what? Class. So everything is available in the notes. Don't take anything. Okay. So first step is definition of class. What you will do in the definition of class? You will declare what? What? Components. So what components have decided to declare? One instance attribute, one static attribute, and what? One constant attribute. Fine. I'll declare the components. What is the next step? Yes. Implementation of what? Class. This is required only if class definition contains what methods. Am I clear? Means if my class doesn't have any methods, I need not implement the class. So in this case, am I going to declare any methods? No. So I don't require what? Implementation. Is it clear to everyone? Okay. So let us focus on these two things first. So so I want to develop a what? Local class. So where do we do it? In ABAP editor. So I'll go to what? SE38 ABAP editor. So since it is my custom report, let us start with Z. Okay, Z. And for this batch, I'll use a naming standard like this, Z930 oops 1. Understood? Z930 oops 1. Done. I'll just give some title, local class with what? Instance versus static versus what? You are trying to understand the difference. Okay, what is the type of program? Executable program. Done. I'll save it in the local object. Done. So try to focus on this. What is the first step here? Definition of what? Class. So already I gave the syntax here. Already I gave the syntax. What is the syntax? Class, class name, definition, components, and end class. Okay. In the notes also I gave the detailed syntax. You can check it later on. Yeah, class. You can give any name for my class. It is my own custom class, na? But generally, generally, you'll start the custom class with what? LCL. I can give any name, but in most of the projects, the naming standard that we follow for local class is what? LCL underscore. Yeah, is my voice and you are able to see the screen? Others? Okay. Okay, fine. Amit, relog in. If you have any network issue, you relog in, it would be rectified. Okay. Right. So what is the naming standard I'm following? LCL, right? So LCL underscore, you can give any name. Let me give the name as something ABC. What is the keyword I have to use? Definition. Now, one important point. After this definition, we have many keywords: final, public, protected, private, abstract, blah, blah. Many things are there. Don't get into those things at this stage. We are not in a position to understand. Just leave it. As and when required, we'll discuss that. Okay. So class, class name, end class. So what I have to do inside this class? I need to declare what? Components. What components? One is instance attribute, then static attribute, and what? Constant attribute. Okay. So instance attributes in local classes, yeah, instance attributes in local classes, it is declared by using what keyword? Data keyword. So now onwards, remember, within the local class, anything declared by using data keyword, you have to understand that as what? Instance attribute. Okay, data. I'll give the attribute name as what? X type. What kind of data type? Let me give it as what? Integer. So I'm calling it as what? What? Instance attribute. Okay, so anything declared by using what? Data keyword, you have to understand that as what? Instance attribute. Fine. Next, I want to declare what? Static attribute. How do we declare? We use a keyword called as what? Class hyphen data. Okay, so y type I. Done. So this is what? Static attribute. So anything declared by using class hyphen data, you have to understand that as what? Static attribute. Then what else? Constants. How do you declare constants? By using the keyword what? Constant. And already we know in any programming language, constant variables must be initialized at the time of what? Declaration itself. So I'll say constants z type I. I am not initializing. Let's see what happens. Right? So let me do the syntax check. We'll go by errors. When I do syntax check, yeah, what is the error I got? There is no public, protected, or what? Private section. Okay. So the one of the important feature of object oriented languages is data security. Data security, in the sense, again, if you go back to this concept, is it kept open? One second. Yeah. See here, we have this function group. Try to understand. We have a function group here. Whenever a function group is available, you will have one top include program now. Okay, this top include program can contain variable declarations. No? All these variables can be accessed by all these function models. No? Yes or no? Any function model of this function group can modify the variables, right? Yes or no? So can you restrict that? In the sense, this variable can be accessed only by what? This function model, this variable by other, I can't restrict. Means the data is flowing freely across all the function models of this function group. Na? But whereas in case of object oriented, the main one of the feature of object is what? Data security. How do we secure your data? Means by using what? Access specifiers. We call them as what? Access specifiers, or we call them as what? Visibility sections, access specifiers or visibility section. So assume that this is a C++ class. Don't think this is ABAP. Assume that this is the class I declared in what? C++. So if I do syntax check there, I'll not get any error, because in case of C++, by default, it will take all these components as what? Private. Even if you don't give public, protected, private, in C++, it will take it as what? Private. Am I clear? It will take it as private. If you assume this is a Java section, okay, in Java, we have one visibility section called as what? Default. What is default? What is public? Forget about that. Yeah, I have not discussed anything, Amit. Okay, so focus on this, you'll catch that point. So what I am trying to do is, I am creating a class without any visibility section. What is the error I am getting? There is no public, protected, or what? Private section. So what is the understanding? Whenever we create the components in a local class, compulsorily we have to specify what? Visibility section. Means we have to specify whether this component is public or protected or private. At this stage, we don't know what is the difference between what? Public, protected, private. Leave it. What I'll do till that time is, I will declare everything as what? What? Public. So public means what? It can be accessed anywhere. When I say anywhere, it can be accessed within this class, it can be accessed outside the class also. Okay, so why I am going for public? Because I want to access these attributes outside the class also. Outside the class also, if I declare it as protected or what? Private, they cannot be accessed outside the class. Again, what is the difference between protected and private? We will not understand now. We will understand when we discuss inheritance concept. So till that time, please don't focus on what? Protected and what? Private. Okay, let us focus only on what? Public. So what you have to understand? Public components can be accessed anywhere. In the sense, it can be accessed within the class, it can be accessed outside the class. Okay, done. So when I do syntax check now, am I getting any error? Yes. What is the error I am getting? Value specification is missing. Why? What is the reason? Constant variables must be initialized at the time of what? Declaration itself. So let me initialize it to what? Something what? 10. Value is what? 10. So let me do syntax check. Any errors? No errors. What is the next step I said here? What is the note I said here? Required only if the class definition contains what? Method. So at this stage, we don't know how to work with the methods, leave it. Okay, so I don't require any implementation. If you want to implement also, how do we implement? You will say class lcl underscore abc implementation, and you will close this. This is called as what? Null implementation. Null implementation. I am opening the class and what? Closing the class. Even if you don't give this also, doesn't matter. So let me comment it. Am I clear? Right, save it, check it. Any errors? No errors. Now I'll start the execution of this program. Okay, so whenever we start the execution of the program, what is the first event which gets triggered? I repeat, in our ABAP environment, whenever we start the execution of any ABAP report, what is the first event which gets triggered? Huh? Load of program. Selection screen is not there here, so initialization forget. Load of program. Load of program. What is that program? What is that event will do? It will load the program into the memory. Na? Similarly here also, the first event triggered internally is what? Load of program. So whenever I say F8, what happens is this class gets loaded into what? Memory. Try to understand, this is very important. Whenever I start the execution of this program, this report contains what? A class. Na? So this class will be loaded into the memory. When the class is loaded into the memory, SAP will allocate memory for static attribute and what? Constant attribute. I repeat this point. Whenever the class is loaded into the memory, SAP will allocate memory for what? Static attribute and what? Constant attribute. Memory will not be allocated for what? Instant. So when it will be allocated, that is a different discussion. Forget about that. So the moment this class is loaded, what happens internally? Memory will be allocated for my static attribute and what? Constant attribute. Do we have any static attributes in my program? Yes. What is that? Y type what? Integer. So assume that. Try to understand this. This is the memory allocated for my static attribute. What is the attribute name? Y. What type of data type it is? Integer. Integer by default contains what? 0, na? Right. Then constant z type I. Memory also gets allocated for my what? Constant attribute. So assume like, what is the attribute name here? Sorry. Yeah, what is the attribute name? Z. What is the value I initialized? 10. 10 only, na? The default I am giving it as what? 10. So I repeat once again, the moment I say F8, this class gets loaded into the memory. When the class is loaded into the memory, SAP will allocate a memory for what? Static attribute and what? Constant attributes. Yes, it got allocated. Fine. Now, what I want is, I want to print the values of this Y and Z. Okay. So I'll say write. How do you display the values of any variable? By using what? Write statement. I'll say write X also. What is this X here? X is a instance attribute. Instance attribute. I am trying to access it outside. Can I access? It is public, I can access. But see here, when I do syntax check, am I getting any error? Field X is what? Unknown. It is unable to recognize what? X. Even though it is public, it is unable to what? Recognize. So Y will understand going forward. Done. So this is ruled out. I'll say Y. Okay, 1 second please. This is only for your understanding. I'll write it so that this is giving me what? Syntax error. I'll say write what? Y. Save it. Check it. Any error? Same error, na? Field Y is what? Unknown. This looks simple, but most of the people, what they'll do is, they'll not concentrate on these things. They'll think of something advanced things. So try to focus on this. Okay. Then what else? What is the other attribute? Z. Yeah, I'm trying to print the value of Z. Am I getting any error? Field Z is what? Unknown. So what you have to understand is, even though these components are public, I am unable to refer to them outside. Okay, done. Leave it. So how do we refer? We'll see now. I'll do one thing. Right. What is the class name? LCL underscore AB. So what you have to understand so far is, when I am trying to refer them directly, it is saying that they are unknown. I'll try to refer them by using what? Class name, because they are components of this class only, na? So I'll try to refer them by using what? Class name. So right, what is this? LCL underscore ABC. Okay, I have to use arrow operator. We call it as referencing operator or arrow operator. What is this? Hyphen followed by what? Greater than. If you take C++ and Java, we use dot. But here dot indicates what? End of the statement. So here we use what? Arrow operator. Hyphen followed by greater than. What is the instance attribute name? Exa. I'm using like this. Okay, save it. Check it. Any error? What is saying here? Field LCL underscore ABC is what? Unknown. So this is also unknown, it seems. Even I am referring it using class name, it is saying unknown. I'll do one thing. Instead of using arrow operator, I will use implies operator. Implies what? X. Okay. So when we have to use arrow, when we have to use implies, you'll understand by the end of this program. Okay. So I'm trying to use what operator now? Implies. So when I do syntax check, what is the error I got? You can only use class implies attribute with what? Static attribute. So this is also ruled out. So both the things are what? Ruled out. So what is the meaning? I cannot refer to instance attributes using what? Class name. Either by using arrow operator or by using what? Implies operator. I cannot refer, even though they are what? Public. Is it clear? Okay, done. Now I'll say write. What is the class name? LCL underscore ABC, arrow operator. What is the static attribute name? Y. Right? I'll give Y. Am I clear? Save it. Check it. Any errors? LCL underscore ABC is what? Unknown. 1 second. Where is it? Yeah. What is the class name? LCL underscore what? ABC. Yeah, LCL underscore ABC is what? Unknown. Save it, check it. I'm getting an error. LCL underscore ABC is unknown. Done. So I'll do one thing. Let me comment this. I'll say right. What is the class name? LCL underscore ABC. I'll use what? What? Implies operator. Save it. Any errors? No errors. No errors. Okay. So when I'm using the class name, when I'm using arrow operator, is saying that it is unknown. Na? Now I used what? Implies. So when I execute this, what is the result I got? 0. Why I got 0? Because the memory got allocated for the static attribute and it got initialized to how much? 0, depending on the data type. What is the data type there? Integer. That's why I got what? 0. Is it clear? So what we have to understand so far is I cannot access instance attributes by using what? By using class name. I cannot access instance attributes by using what? Class name. I am able to access static attribute using what? Class name. But if you're using class, I have to use what operator? Implies. We should not use what? Arrow operator. Is it clear? Okay. Right. I'll come back to that point. So I got how much? 0. Done. Now I'll say, right. LCL underscore ABC. Arrow operator, what is this? Z. What is that Z there? Constant attribute. So save it, check it. What is the error I got? Same. So what is the understanding is, whenever you are using the class, I should not use arrow operator. I should not use what? Arrow operator. So this is giving me what? Syntax error. Now I'll say right. What is this? LCL underscore ABC implies what? Set. So save it, check it, done. When I execute, what is the result I got? 10. So what is the understanding? Both static attribute as well as constant attribute can be accessed by using what? By using by using by using class name. Implies is not important thing here. This is important. See here. When I execute, I got the result. So what is the understanding so far is static attribute as well as constant attributes can be accessed by using what? Class name. Whereas instance cannot be accessed by using what? Class name. Whether I use arrow operator or implies, I am unable to access. Na? So the point you have to understand is static attribute and constants can be accessed by using what? Class. And if you are using that, you have to use what here? Implies. That is known thing here. So the known thing is whenever you are using class, you must use what? You must use what? Implies, not what? Arrow operator. So when we have to use arrow operator, we'll understand now. Done. Okay. So at this stage, memory got allocated only for what? Static and what? Constant. So when the memory is allocated for instance attribute, memory will be allocated for instance attribute only when you create the object for the class. When you create the instance for the class. Just like in the earlier scenario, simply creating the types is of no use, na? Yes or no? Simply creating the types is of what? No use. Okay, based on this types declaration, what I can do? Internal table, I can declare what? Work areas. Whenever we declare internal table and work area, memory will be allocated. Na? Similarly, based on that class declaration, I can create any number of what? Objects. And one more point before I proceed further. As of now, they are what? Public. What I'll do? I'll make it as what? What? Protected. Okay. So these protected components, I'm trying to access outside the class. Na? So when I do syntax check, am I getting any error? Yes. Access to protected attribute Y is what? Not allowed. Because simple reason is what? Protected components cannot be accessed outside the class. So this is rolled out. Okay. Save it, check it. Any errors? Access to protected attribute Z is what? Not allowed. So what I mean to say is, okay, let me declare it as private. I'm declaring it as what? Private. Did I got the same error? What is that? Access to private attribute Y is not allowed. So for the timing, what you have to understand is only public components can be accessed outside the class. Protected and private cannot be accessed outside. What is the difference between protected and private? When do we go for that? Means you'll understand only after discussing constructors and what? Inheritance. Okay. So leave it for the timing. Till that time, I'll use only what? Public. Okay. Done. Now what is my agenda? I want to store some data inside X. When I can store the data inside X? Only when the memory is allocated. Na? When the memories will be allocated for this X? Only when you create what? Object. Understood? So how do you create the object? See this. Yeah. This looks boring, but this is important to understand the rest of the what concepts. So first object OB1. Yeah. In case of C++ and Java, object creation is only one step. Only one step. So how do you create objects in C++? Class name followed by what? Object name. In Java, class name, object name, we use what? New operator. Whereas in ABAP, object creation is two steps. In ABAP, object creation is what? Two steps. What is the first step? Declare what? Reference. Then on top of that reference, you have to create what? Object. Whether it is a local class or global class, if you want to create the object, compulsorily I must follow these two steps. What is the first step here? Declare what? Reference. What is the syntax? Data, some reference name, type ref2, what? Class name. So here I'll say data, some reference name. You can give my name, your name, whatever it is. Okay. Let me give it as what? OB1. I can give any name. What is the keyword you have to use? Type ref2, what? What is the class name? LCL underscore ABC. I am calling this as what? Reference. Okay. Reference doesn't allocate any memory. Reference is only what? It is alias for what? Class. Alias for class means Raju alias Ravi. What is the meaning of that? Raju alias Ravi means that person Raju can be identified by what? Ravi also. Na? So now onwards, this class is identified by what name? OB1. Okay. Reference doesn't allocate any memory. So to what? Show that point. Okay. I am not calling it as object. I am calling it as only what? Reference. Okay. Reference doesn't allocate any memory. So far what we understood is instance attribute cannot be accessed by using what? Cannot be accessed by using what? Class. Instance attribute can be accessed only by using what? Object. But again, I am not calling it as object. I am calling it as only what? Reference. What I will do now? OB1 of what? X is equal to what? 10. You understood what I am trying to say? OB1 of X equal to, okay, I'll give a different value. I'll give what? Something what? 5. Let's see what happens. Save. Check. No errors. Done. Okay. Let me try to execute. Earlier I got the result of Y and Z. Na? I got 0. I got what? 10 I think here. So when I execute now, I am trying to execute. Let's see what happens. What happened? I got a runtime error. What is the runtime error here? Object reference not assigned. Access using a 0 object reference is what? Not possible. Error analysis. You are trying to access a component with what? 0 object reference points to what? Nothing. An object reference must point to what? Object. Object reference must point to an object. So what I mean to say is, so simple understand. Sorry, what is my program name? Z930. Oops, yeah. So see here, why I got the error is memory is not allocated for what? Instance attribute. If the memory is allocated only, I can store the data, na? But reference will not allocate any memory. So this is giving me what? Yes, what it is giving? Runtime error. So when I send this program, if you're practicing in the laptop, you uncomment and practice so that you'll get what? Right? If you type my program as it is, you'll not understand anything. Understood? You uncomment and practice, then only you'll get what? Runtime errors. Okay. So what I have to do now? What is the second step here? Yes. What is the second step? Create object based on what? reference. So what is the syntax? Create object followed by object name. So create object. What is the reference name? OB1. So what you have to understand is, at this stage I am calling it as what? Reference. After executing this statement, I am calling the same thing as what? Object. Okay. Object, what it will do? Allocates memory for what? Yes, instance attribute. So the moment this statement is executed, SAP will allocate memory for what? Instance attribute. What is my instance attribute in my class? Exa. So what happens here? Memory will be allocated for my instance attribute X. What is the data type of that? I, that is integer. So by default it is what? 0. So this memory got allocated on behalf of which object? Yes, on behalf of which object? On behalf of what? OB. When I create that object, only memory got allocated. Na? What about these things? When the memory is allocated for Y and Z? When this memory got allocated, when the class is loaded, means for these two things object is not required. The memory will be allocated for static and constant attributes the moment the class is loaded into the memory. Whereas for instance attribute, the memory will be allocated only when you create what? Object. How do you create the object? First you have to create what? Reference. Reference is nothing but what? Alias. Reference doesn't allocate any memory. Okay, so since it is not allocating memory, when I'm trying to store the data using that reference, I'm getting what? Runtime error. Now what I'll do? Okay, so memory might got allocated. Okay, right. Now what I'll do here is I'll say right. Try to understand. What is the object name? OB1 of what? X. Is it clear? So I'm trying to access the instance attribute by using what? Object. I'll do one thing. I'll not use arrow operator. I'll use what? Implies. Let's see what happens. Save it. Check it. Any errors? Type OB1 is what? Unknown. So this is giving me what? Yes. Syntax error. So what I'll do here, right? What is this? So the thumb rule is whenever we are using the class, you have to use implies. Whenever we are using the object, you have to use what? Arrow operator. Like that you remember. Is it clear? In the earlier cases, when I use class, I was forced to use what? Yes, implies. Here when I am using object, I am forced to use what? Arrow operator. Okay, so when I execute now, see here. Last 10 minutes, just hold on please. Let me complete this. So what is the value I got? 0. OB1 of X is what? 0. So memory got allocated here. Fine. Now what I'll do is, acha, one more point here. This OB1 is object of which class? ABC class. Na? Inside that ABC class, there are other two components. Na? What are the other two components? Y and Z. Y and Z. Memory for these things got allocated when the class is loaded into the memory. Na? So, since this OB1 is also the object of the same class, this OB1 will also point to what? Okay, I know this is a little confusion, but if you understand this thing, entire object unit becomes easy. So this OB1 will also point to what? This particular what? Static attribute. So OB1 is pointing to X. The same OB1 is also pointing to what? Y and Z. Why? Because these two are also components of same class. Na? OB1 is the object of the same class, right? So to justify that point, see here. I will say right. What is this? OB1. Can I use implies? No, just now I told whenever we use object, you must use what? Arrow operator, referencing operator. OB1 of what is this? Y, comma. Let me print Z also. OB1 of what? Z. Save it. Check it. Done. No errors. When I execute this, what I got? X is 0. Y is also what? 0. And what is this? Constant is what? 10. So what you have to understand? What you have to understand? What you understood so far? Static and constant attributes static and constant attributes can be accessed either by using what? Class, and also by using what? Objects. Yes or no? Static and constant attributes can be accessed both by using what? Class name as well as what? Object. When I'm using class, I must use implies. When I'm using object, I have to use what? Arrow operator. Whereas instance attributes can be accessed only by using what? Object. So this is the first difference. What is that? Instance attributes are specific to what? Object. The memory for instance attribute will be allocated only when you create what? Objects. Instance attributes can be accessed only by using what? Object. Whereas for static and constant attribute, memory will be allocated as and when the class is what? Loaded. Those static and constant attributes can be accessed both by using what? Class as well as by using what? Object. Done? So before I continue for next 5 minutes, any questions? First, let me take online questions. Online, any questions? Classroom, any questions? Feel free to ask. Right? Okay, let me continue. So I'll do one thing. So current values of the object OB1, what I got? 0, 0 and 10. Na? 0, 0, 10. Done. Now what I'll do is, just this is only for your understanding. I'll say OB1 of X is equal to something 7, something, okay? OB1 of Y is equal to, I'll say something 20. Okay, so what I'm doing here, by using the object, I'm trying to change the value of what? X. Is it allowing? Save it, check it. No errors, na? So what is the meaning? This X value got changed to how much? 7. And this is changed by using which object? OB1, na? So it gets reflected in the current object. What is the current object? 7. So I got OB1 of X got 7. Then OB1 of Y is what? 20. Any errors? No errors. So by using OB1, I am able to manipulate what? Static attribute also, na? So what is the value here? How much? 20 I gave, huh? 20. Okay. Now, is this valid? No. Constants are fixed, na? Throughout constant remains what? Same. So when I do syntax check, I got what? Field OB1 of Z cannot be changed. Simple reason is what? Because it is constant, it is fixed. So this is giving me what? Syntax error. Now, for your understanding, again I'll print the values of what? Object OB1. I'll say what? OB1 of X. What else? OB1 of Y and OB1 of what? Z. Okay. Yeah, sorry. OB1 of X, OB1 of Y, and OB1 of what? Z. So what are the current values? 7, 20 and 10. 7, 20 and what? 10. Did I got that? 7, 20 and what? 10. These are the current values in my object what? OB1. Keep this in mind. Now, for a, okay, here if you go back, based on this types declaration, how many internal tables I can create? Any number of internal, yes or no? Once a type declaration, I can declare any number of internal, any number of work areas. Similarly, based on a class, I can create any number of what? Objects. So what I'll do now, for your understanding, let me give this second object. I can give any name. Let me give it as what? OB. So how do you create the object? First you have to create what? Reference. OB to type ref to what? Class name. See, directly, can I say like this? Does it make sense? You are saying create object, but this OB2 is pointing to what? Nothing, na? That's the reason. First of all, you have to create what? Reference. On top of that reference, you have to create what? Object. Okay, I'll do like this. Create object OB2, I'll say. Save it, check it. Any errors? OB2 is what? And it is unable to recognize what is this OB2. So directly I cannot create what? Directly I cannot create the object. It will give me what? Syntax error. So first, let me create the reference OB2 type ref to what is the class name? LCL underscore ABC. Then what? Create object what? OB2. Save it, check it, done. Right. So what happens now? I'm creating a new object. Whenever we create a new object, what happens? A fresh memory will be allocated for instance attribute only. Instance attribute only. So what happens on behalf of the object? What is this? OB2. On behalf of the object OB2, a fresh memory got allocated for which attribute? Yes, instance attribute. Again, this will initialize to what? 0. This is the memory which got allocated on behalf of which object? OB2, na? So this is OB2. So OB2 of X is current value is how much? Yes, 0. Will this OB2, can it point to other components? Yes, because this Y and Z also belongs to what? Same class, na? So this OB2 can also refer to what? This thing. So this is, let me draw it. So what is the understanding is, by looking at the diagram, for static and what? Constant attribute, memory will be allocated only what? Once, which will be referred by what? All the objects of the class. But whereas for instance attribute, what happens? For each object, a separate memory will be what? Allocated. If I create 100 objects, 100 times memory will be allocated for what? Instance attribute. So let me print it here. I'll say right. I'll say OB2 of what? What? X. OB2 of what? Y. OB2 of what? Z. What is the expected result? 0, 7 and what? 20, 10, 10. I think constant is 10, 0, 20 and what? 10. Am I clear? 0, 20 and what? 10. Okay, so this 7 here, where is it? Yeah, this 7 is available in which object? OB1. Now keeping this in mind, now tell me, when do we go for instance attribute, when do we go for static attribute? By looking at the diagram, when you want to maintain same value across all the objects, we'll go for what? Static attribute. Yes or no? Even if you create 100 objects, at any point of time 100 objects will have the same value for static attribute, na? Whereas instance, it depends by using whichever object you access, that object value I'll get. So when do we go for instance means when you want to store unique values. For example, assume that I want to try to understand this. I want to create a class EMP. Okay, inside this class EMP, I want to capture employee number, I want to capture employee name, I want to capture what? Company name. Okay, company name. So employee number, should I declare it as instance or static? Because each employee might have different employee numbers. Employee name, instance. Again, it might be same or different. Okay, company name, static, because all the employees belongs to what? Same company. Yes or no? So the developer should be able to decide whether to declare instance or whether to declare what? Static. What is the difference between static and constant? Constant is fixed, whereas static is not fixed. Static can be what? Modified, whereas constant cannot be modified. What is the difference between instance and static? Instance is, you assume like that, yes. If you take subroutine context, instance is like a local variable, static is like what? Global. Throughout it becomes same value, na? So the difference between instance and static is, instance is specific to object, whereas static is not specific to any object. Okay, instance can be accessed only by using what? Object, whereas static can be accessed either by using object or by using what? Class. So these are the only differences. I think I already documented. Let me open that and wind up this. 1 second. Yeah, see here. Observe here. Instance attribute is specific to what? Each object. It is not specific to any object. Am I clear? It is initialized on behalf of what? Each object. That is, for every object created, a separate memory will be allocated for what? Each instance attribute. Whereas initialized only once in the lifetime of what? Class. That is, memory will be allocated only once, which will be shared by what? All the objects of the class. That's what the diagram is saying here. Na? The memory got allocated when the class is loaded. If I create 100 objects, all the 100 objects are pointing to what? Same memory location. And what is that? In local classes, instance is declared by using what keyword? Data. Here it is declared by using what? Class-data. They can be accessed only by using what? Object. Just now we have seen. They can be accessed either by using object or what? Class. So these are the only differences between instance and what? Static. Okay, so most of the people static mean they'll think that we cannot change the value. We can change the value, but that value will be reflecting what? All the objects. Even if you change the static by using OB1, it will also reflect what? OB100 also, because that object also is pointing to what? Same memory location. Okay, so first let me take classroom questions, then I'll take online. First classroom, any questions please ask me. Hmm.
Why I declare as 20? If I create OB 20, every time 20 will be this constantly.
Now, at this current value is 20. Now I'll say OB2 of y is something 55. 55. Now, okay. Now, for your understanding, I'll say OB1 of y, OB2 of y, and also what is the class name? All of them should have what? Same value. 55 only. Yes. Why? Why? It was 20. It was 20 till this stage. I have changed it to how much? 55. Using what object? OB2. So don't think that this will be modified only in OB2. Since this is a static attribute, all the objects are pointing to same memory location. Na? So when I access either by using OB1 or by using OB2 or by using class name, for all the instances, I am getting what? 55 only. Understood? Because I am changing static value here. But that static is referred by what? All the objects. Na? So whichever object you refer, you will get the same value. So let me put it here. Yeah, classroom, any further doubts? How much it is? 55. Okay. Any doubts? Online, any questions? So whether it is a local class or global class, these are the only differences between instance and what? Static attributes. Done? Okay. So one before I wind off, see one important thing I want to convey. This OOPS ABAP requires around 40 to 45 hours. I'm not going by days. It requires what? 40 to 45 hours. So the general practice we follow is we'll say 40 to 45, but it will get extended. It will go to 45 days to what? 2 months. 45 days 2 months, because it is what? Monday to Friday concept, and daily we'll spend around what? 75 minutes. I mean to say 1 hour to what? 1 hour 15 minutes, something like this. This is a general regular batch. Okay, but here some people are asking for fast track. Fast track means doesn't mean that I'll go fast. Okay, what I'll do instead of spending 1 hour, if it is feasible for everyone, okay, I'll take it more time. More time in the sense 9:30 to 9:30 to what? 11 a.m. minimum. After that, depending on your patients, my patients, if required, we'll extend till 11:30. Otherwise, 9:30 to 11 a.m. is a thing. 9 a.m. not possible, because simple reason is maybe after a few days I'll be starting cross apps batch from 8:15 a.m. to 9:15 a.m. Okay, so that's the reason it is not possible, Amit. Okay, so this OOPS ABAP will be at 9 Srinivas. Even you also asked. I tried all the combination, but not working. Okay, right? So 9:30 we'll have it. 9:30 to 11 a.m. Okay, so that if we spend more time, we can complete at least in 30 to what? 35 days. Monday to Friday, if required, we'll have it on Saturdays also if it is feasible for everyone. But officially it is Monday to Friday. Right? So class timings should be 9:30 to 11. No, that's what I said, Amit. Na, not 10:30, 11. Okay, it's not 10:30, and 10:30 also I'm okay. But some people are asking for a fast track. Srinivas, I think you only, you know. So I'm okay with 9:30 to 10:30 also. Very much okay. But it the course will get extended. I'm okay with that if everyone agrees. Yeah, now it is easy, but going forward it becomes complex. You'll only tell that you don't want class on Saturday. Okay, that we'll think of Saturdays later on. I am okay with Saturdays also, but acha, for years more. So 45 days is sufficient in the sense I didn't get you. Till 11 it is not possible, Amit. Yeah, it will go for 45 days if you take 1 hour time. But one thing is, what about others online? Sridhar, you are in office. Okay. I understand. Okay, I'll do one thing. Tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll have it at 9:30 only. Let me think of other options also. For few days, we'll have it 9. We'll try to start sharp by 9:30, and we'll go till what 10:30. Just give me some 2 3 days time, then we'll see what I can do. If possible, I'll make it like this. If possible, did fine. 9 a.m. Right, so but tomorrow we'll have it at 9:30 only, but be flexible going forward. We may prepone it 9 a.m. or even 8:30 also is fine, na? Okay, but I'm not assuring now, but in future I may prepone it to 9 o'clock. No.
Uh, Sridhar, just a small concern, because of 8:30 to 9:30, some other classes are also there. So
uh,
if it is possible, could you please start at 9:40 or 9:45?
or some people are saying that 9 o'clock is not possible. 9:30 only they want. Okay, we'll do one thing. We'll officially put it 9:30 to 10:30 only. 9:30 to 10:30. What we will do is, what we'll do is, on Saturdays, but you attend online, na? కుదరదా మీకు online? Yeah. Okay. So we'll see how to work out on Saturdays and holidays. We'll spend more time so that we'll complete it as early as possible. But weekdays, Monday to Friday, we'll stick to 9:30 to 10:30. Is it fine, Shravan, Amit, and others?
Uh, Sridhar, a small concern, Sridhar, because of 8:30 to 9:30, within a few days, I have another class on VO5.
Okay,
So
okay.
I'm requesting like a 9:45 to 11. It is fine for me. The thing is that 8:30 to 9:30 I have other class.
Yeah,
So that is the reason I'm requesting.
yeah, we'll manage that, Shravan. We'll manage that. Okay.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So again, 10:30 means don't restrict to 10:30 only. Be flexible here and there. Okay, 10:50 will get extended, right? So I'll wind up then. Tomorrow we'll continue at 9:30. Shravan, you take my number. You call me after this class. Now I'll speak to you. Call me after 10 15 minutes.
Okay.
I've pinged my message. Sorry, mobile number. You call me
Okay.
after 10 15 minutes. I'll speak to you. Okay, or else anytime today you call me. Okay, I'll speak to you personally. Right?
Okay.
You got my number? Right. Chalo then. Any other questions, classroom? So what? 1 second online. Let me take whether your on email IDs are there or not. Savan, Amit, Jay Kumar, Malikarjun, Pokuri 354. Who is this? Pradeepa? Yeah, may I know who is this person by mail ID Pokuri 354?
Chinna.
Chinna. Okay, right. Yeah, I think you came to the reference of Pradeep, right?
Yes, Pradeep.
Yeah, fine. Okay. Santosh, yes, I'm having your Srikanth, right? Surendra, fine. No problem. So in another 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever we discussed today, the material, everything I'll share. Recording, I'll try to share by end of today. Okay. Chalo then, I'm winding off. We'll continue tomorrow then.